Welcome to the Expert Authority Show. Conversations with leaders who aren't just visible, but deeply trusted. This show isn't about tactics or trends. It's about identity and beliefs and the defining moments that shape real authority. Have you ever felt like the career that you're in is quietly becoming obsolete? In today's episode, I'm talking to Pascal Xavier, PhD, speaker, and author of The Future of Careers: How to Adapt and Thrive in a Disruptive Age. Welcome, Pascal, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you, Melissa. It's great to be here with you.
Now, let me ask you, Pascal, you argue that the traditional career ladder is obsolete. So, if that's the case, what replaces it and what does success look like now?
Yeah. The idea of career ladder is comforting, but dangerously outdated. It assumes stability, predictability, a clear upward trajectory. And in today's climate, none of that exists. What we replace it by today is career mobility, not climbing a ladder rung by rung. I introduced the concept of steps, which is a framework, a visual framework in my book, The Future of Careers. And STEPS, the acronym STEP stands for stairs, travelator, escalator, plane, subway. Now, you'll find these elements of moving people in an airport. In an airport, you have all these five elements. And STEPS is not just a visual metaphor, it's a new way of visualizing one's career. You know, back in those days, we used to think about the career ladder, and I'm going to climb rung after rung, and I'm going to get up to the top. Well, it is a good aspiration to have. There are only so many CEO roles. There are only so many general manager roles. Do you hang out for that? Do you wait for that? Or do you pivot and make the best of what you got? You may eventually get there, but not through that single linear path you thought you could get there through.
True, true. We are very attached, a lot of us, to an identity and a career. I know in my grandfather's, era, you had the same career for 40 years.
Yeah.
Now, the last couple of decades, many of us, change careers every few years.
Yeah.
But your book introduces the concept of concurrent disruption. So how is that different from the change that we've always experienced, and why does it matter now?
Yeah. So we've always had disruption. There's nothing new, but it used to come in waves. I mean, economic downturns, technology shifts, geopolitical events. They tended to happen sequentially, different stages in the age. But now what we are facing is fundamentally different. We're getting disruption sometimes all at the same time and more than one at the same time. The AI is a big disruption right now.
Mm.
But as we speak right now, they've got a major war, right, in Iran, and we've got war between, Israel and Ukraine, and the whole of the Middle East has been dragged into it. We just came out of pandemics. We had COVID just a couple of years ago, but and we still have these infections, we still have these outbreaks, still have wars, but they're happening simultaneously, unlike before. And in such a climate, in such a disruptive climate, it is hard to have any predictability or stability in a career. And so, in such an environment, skills expire faster, roles morph overnight. AI is doing that. So, adaptability is no longer a nice to have, it's a core currency of modern careers. And that's what my book is about. That's what my book talks about. In fact, one of the chapters I talk about the career construction theory, which is was come up by a person called Mark Savickas in 2005. He talks about adaptability being built through four capacities. It's concern, it's control, it's curiosity, it's confidence. And if you think about it, concern gives reason to act, control gives ownership to action, curiosity drives options for actions, and confidence gives you belief to act. And this research that he has done was done over 14 countries. And it clearly showed that in today's this turbulent environment, adaptability is the currency to move and to get jobs through.
Yeah. So you've been laid off twice in your career. Tell me about that and how you felt in that situation and what was going on for you.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in moving countries, and I moved overseas, I moved to Australia about 20 plus years ago. I quit my job then. So that was really the first pivot I had to make. Right? And since then, over my 25 years or so in Australia, I've been laid off twice or made redundant twice. Right? And I've had to use various means to adapt and that is where my frameworks come into play. My books not only talks about the visual framework, which is steps, the stairs, travelator, escalator, planes, and subway, which are visual metaphors of how to move. They also cover frameworks like pivot, navigate, and bridge. Now, these are frameworks that weren't created in isolation. They were created based on research, based on what information and literature was out there, but more so through my experience, what I experienced over the my 20 plus years, in fact 30 years almost of career, where I went through a number of different industries. So I worked in engineering, I worked in part-time in academia, I worked in consulting, I worked in construction, I worked in astronomy, and now in healthcare.
Hospitality,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
such an array of different
yeah.
industries, but you've brought the same skill set
Brought
to.
the same skill set, exactly. So, but one of the misconceptions people have is that, am I going to start over? Am I going to start all over? And it's not the case because it really is that mobility without strategy becomes chaos. So you can't just be moving haphazardly. You got to be you got to be moving in a with a strategic intent,
Mhm.
and that's why it's important that that the move should be driven by the intersection of three variables, if you like: the market reality, like is where's the momentum, is it AI, is it sustainability, is it digital transformation, is it sales, position, personal positioning. What capabilities and credibility do I have? What can I
Mhm.
bring? And
Yeah.
risk appetite. How much uncertainty can am I willing to absorb at this point in time? So the book is not just about steps. It's not even only about the frameworks that help people pivot. It's about communication. It's about negotiating politics. It's about a whole lot of things. That go into um, crafting out a plan as to how to navigate.
Hmm. And so who were you thinking about when you wrote this book?
Well, when I wrote this book, I was thinking about professionals really, most and really professionals who have worked a few years. Right? I mean, there are things in this book that are valid for, say, an undergraduate who's about to join the workforce. So there's some stuff there even for someone who's about to join the workforce. But the bulk of the book has been written for those between 25 to say 55, where you work maybe a few years or you work a fair number of years as a mid-career professional and you got yourself stuck due to various reasons. It could be being laid off, like I have twice,
Mm,
or it could be that it could be politics, it could be industry being made just vanishing overnight
mm,
because it's no longer relevant. It
mm,
could be any reason. It could be a number of reasons, and with the disruption we're having right now, uh, it is hard to say where things are going to go.
mm.
And so preparation is really our best currency. Preparation, being adaptable, being resilient, having
Yeah.
a positive attitude
Yes.
is very, very important. Because if I were to just have just given up the two times that I was made redundant, that I was laid off, then I would have just stayed laid off and and who knows what I was doing,
Mm, mm.
So but I refuse to stay down and what this book really is, besides being based on research, this book is based on techniques and methodologies that I have used to move forward resiliently, and I feel that if I can do it, people out there can too.
Yeah. Can you take me back to the, one of the times that you got that phone call or email that you became redundant?
Oh, when I think about it, I still have feelings of the thought, because often in being made redundant or being laid off, the telltale signs are there. And for me, it wasn't a surprise those two times when it did happen, because I saw the writing on the wall.
Can
And
you
that
talk more about that? Because a lot of people don't see the writing on the wall. So
But
what
you
was
got to
the
look at you got to see the salient method. There's some whispers sometimes about this and that, and we might be doing this and we might be doing that, or we might be transferred to another department or a division or university or a like in the case of one of the redundancies, that topic of being restructured went on for about almost a year and a half. uh, one moment it was okay, maybe we will be going here and we'll be merged with this, and next moment it's another plan. So
Mm.
when there's already talk about it, that something is being planned.
Change is happening. Change is
It's
already
happening.
happening. Yeah.
And so you got to be prepared rather than wait and hope for the best, right?
Hmm.
You know, uh, you know what they say: prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah. So
And
how did you handle the second time differently to the first?
yeah, so the second time, again, this time it wasn't about moving to another division. This time it was about financial stress. So in the sector that I was working in, the previous organization, I'm still in the not-for-profit aged care disability sector. Now there's lots of turmoil in the sectors because of workers' compensation, and while most people do the right thing, there's some people who are fleecing the system, and so that means employers have to fork out multi-billion million dollars on insurance premiums, and you can only do so much. Now, being an executive and being a middle manager, you get access to some of the financial information, and you do some analysis. You see where things are going. You see that, and we look like we're going into the red, or the chart is taking a dive downwards south. You know that something is not quite right.
Yeah.
And if there's no plan in place, no strategy in place, and if management aren't telling you what they're planning to do, then the fastest way to go from red to black is to let people go.
Hmm.
So I saw that coming,
Yeah.
and so for the last time I was laid off, I actually made preparations. In fact, I started applying, and I lined up a job barely weeks before I was made redundant. So I took a redundancy, and then I moved on to the next job within 1 or 2 weeks. So I learned from previous experience and from what happens in such climates, that uh, you got to prepare, see the signs,
Yeah.
and roll with the punches, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. You say that the key is identity through capability, not title.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is that, look, while we all like to have the title of CEO and general manager and director and so on, it's not always possible. Yes, it's good to aspire to it, and it's still possible within my frameworks. It's still possible. My book doesn't say anything about giving up ambition It does not say anything there about giving up ambition. All it's saying is not be linear. Develop non-linear system thinking is what my book is about. Non-linear system thinking, because it's possible to get there, but through different paths.
Yeah.
That's why I say the future is not found; it's forged. You got to forge your future by forging your career.
Yeah. You've not only had a lot of different industries that you've worked in, but you've worked in different countries as well.
Yes, I've worked in Singapore. I worked in the U.S. In the East Coast in Pennsylvania. I've worked in when I came to Australia. I was not always in Sydney. I started off in Port Hedland, which is a small little mining town up north of Perth. It's about almost 4 hours by flight from Perth to the north of WA. And I was in Queensland. I was in Mount Isa. And then I was in Victoria for a while. I was in Bega down south, which is about 5.5 hours drive by car from Sydney.
Yeah.
So I worked regional Australia too, in different states.
Yeah.
So yeah, and apart from different environments, I've also worked different functions. You see, I was not always a risk and compliance manager that I am right now. I was a engineer. I was a principal engineer at GHD, which is an Australian multinational operating in about 20 countries around the world. Quite a senior position there. And then I was a researcher at Penn State. I was a postdoc there. I was project manager, program manager in construction and mining in Australia, because that's what I moved from when I left the US. And then I was in quality management for a while, and then I moved to risk management. So each time it was done incrementally, and it's got to be done in a way where you don't lose your previous experience. You make use of your previous experience and you build moving forward.
Yes.
Sam Cawthon talks about bouncing forwards. I say you rebuild forward too. The same
Yeah.
concept. Yeah.
Yes, when I was reading your bio and looking at all the different industries you've worked in and the different countries you've worked in, I realized that, putting yourself in different situations and not being in the same career has been the driving force for your success.
Yes, it has. And look, the thing is with also it's an important message to get across to readers and viewers is that you can't mindlessly spread yourself thin, because if you go out in all directions, you could spread yourself thin and be a jack of all trades, master of none. While there's some merit in it that you are able to pivot and move to different places, if you want to build something and get to a certain position and move up the I wouldn't say ladder, but if you move up in the hierarchy, then it's good to have a plan and a strategy to not waste what you have had before, but to utilize it, but then to move functions and move move functions and also levels, but in a strategic way, making use of what you got, marketing yourself as someone who's had this base, who has this experience, which can be utilized at the next level and the next level and the next level.
Yeah, and you've constantly been learning and studying and putting yourself in these situations so that you can go out and evolve and adapt. So that's
Yes,
obviously something that you value very strongly is
that,
learning.
that's exactly right. The learning and getting certifications is really the way to go. Now, one doesn't need to go out and accumulate degrees. In Australia, I'll say that I have gained multiple certifications over the years. I first started off with a certificate in training and assessment, which is critical to doing corporate training or teaching in a university. From an industry standpoint, I got my ISO 9001, which is for quality management, and I did audits on various organizations within Australia and New Zealand. Then I got my Prince 2 certification for project and program management, which was useful. And then so I kind of left engineering, the PhD. I didn't dwell on my qualifications. I moved and asked yourself the question now: what does the industry require? What does a sector need? You
Mm.
know, and so you drive yourself based on interest, only interest, but also what is required. Because the and then in 2017, I made a big decision because I've been practicing risk management within program management. So you can understand that within projects and program and operations management, there's risk. And so risk management became a big part of program and project management. And I thought to myself, why not go deeper into it? So I did a graduate diploma in corporate governance and risk management with the Governance Institute of Australia. It's a peak body institution in Australia, very close ties with the Governance Institute in the UK. It was a 3 year undertaking, so I had to do 3 years of exams, subjects, including corporate law, which is a subject I did very well in, and utilize my the skills that I gained from this course moving forward in my work in risk and compliance. And governance is a big thing right now, and is a common denominator in my work with various organizations. Governance is always a very big thing. If you're not set up properly with the right delegations, with the right policies and procedures and codes of practice, it is possible to that an organization could lose its way.
Mm. Yeah. So I guess the key here is to not be staying in your comfort zone and resting on your laurels, so to say, and always be upskilling and learning.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just want to finally ask you, Pascal, if everything external was taken away, the systems, the roles, the recognition, the career path, the titles, everything that we rely on, if that was all to disappear,
Mhm.
um, who is Pascal Xavier?
Pascal Xavier is a person continuously looking to not only better himself, but to contribute to society. Because I believe life is service to people, to society. We help each other out, and that's me.
That's beautiful. And I guess that's your beautiful heart and why you have written this book. So if you would like to purchase a copy of The Future of Careers, we'll put all the details down below this video here, and a link to Pascal's website, LinkedIn, where you can connect with him. But thank you, Pascal, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you for joining us on the Expert Authority Show, where we bring you the stories behind the authorities that you know, like, and trust. We'll see you next time.